Thank you for joining us this morning and welcome to the debrief of the management profile on Catalyst. As you probably know, this is the third in the series of these debriefs. We started with the workplace profile, and then a couple of months ago, we had a debrief of the Agile EQ profile on Catalyst. And so now I have Tristan May with me here. Thanks again, Tris, for the work you've put into this. What I'm going to be doing is taking, Tristan's got his Catalyst profile up on the screen, as you can see. We're going to be diving into his management profile in a moment. And in case you don't know, there are three everything disc profiles available in Catalyst: the workplace profile, Agile EQ, and the management profile. And so we're up to the management profile now, and we'll be moving to that in just a moment. But I'm going to be taking Tristan through his management profile on Catalyst and looking at the application of that. In preparation for this, Tristan has completed a sort of little questionnaire that we've created for helping people to get the best out of the profiles. Now, before we dive into the management profile, I'd just like to create some context here. The profile was actually released in 2008. And before we actually had the workplace profile in the Circumplex version. And so just to put this in context, back at that time, the conventional thinking about management and leadership was that managers manage things and results and leaders lead people. I still find people in the workplace who think that's the case. But in 2005, it was one of several books published around that time that challenged that thinking about what the manager's role is. And the book I'm referring to is The One Thing You Need to Know. And I'm just going to put it up next to my face here. So The One Thing You Need to Know by Marcus Buckingham. You may be familiar with Marcus Buckingham's name. He co-authored one of the best-selling business books of all time, First to Break All the Rules, co-authored with Kurt Kaufman. And then The One Thing You Need to Know came out in 2005. It was the one thing you need to know to be a great manager, to be a great leader, and to be a great individual contributor. Now, the one thing you need to know to be a great manager, he claims, and this is all based on research, he's an ex-Gallup consultant, so very experienced researcher, was for the manager to discover what is unique about each person and capitalize on it, right? And the differences he was referring to were differences in personality, all right? So in other words, the great managers get the best out of each employee by understanding their personality. And that's what that whole section of the book is really about. And so management is about people skills. It's people orientation. So when Wiley developed this profile, they built it around the applications of three management skills. All right, and that's what we'll be going through today and looking at those one-on-one skills, because it's how do I have the best relationship I can with each of my direct reports and get the best results out of them, all right, by capitalizing on their personality, strengths, and so on. Okay, so Tristan, let's go down to the management profile. Just scroll down a little bit on your Catalyst report there, and there's the management profile. All right, and we'll start with the management overview. Just click on that. And that just takes us into an overview of what the profile is about and then how DISC works. All right, and this is very applicable to the management profile. All right, so first of all, you've got to understand yourself as a manager and how does your personality or DISC profile affect the way you go about managing people. Secondly, understanding others, the people that report to you. And then thirdly, adapting to others. So there's a bit more information on that in this section. There's also an introductory video there. All right, but if we scroll down the bottom here, Tris, there's a bit more information about understanding yourself, understanding others, and then adapting. All right. And then down further, we'll see some management principles. In the PDF versions of these profiles from Epic, you will have cornerstone principles. And there's usually 5 or so of those. We've reduced it down to 3 in the Catalyst profile, the 3 that are most relevant, okay? And I won't go into those at the moment. It's essentially saying that all people can be effective as managers, or styles can be effective as managers, really. And then down a little bit further, Tris, and you see a menu come up, and we can go to the next section in the profile, which is your management style. So let's click on that. Now, unlike in the PDF version profile from Epic, there is no narrative reporting here. And the reason is when you do the management profile in Catalyst, you automatically get the workplace profile. All right? If you haven't already done the workplace profile in Catalyst, if you just went into Catalyst and did the management profile, you would see when you got in there that you have both a workplace profile and a management profile, and the workplace profile has the narrative report in there. All right. So the focus here on your management style is on your priorities. Okay. So this is where we're going to ask Trish to talk about his profile, because one of the first exercises in the debrief form that we've created is to read the management overview and your management style sections, and particularly focusing in on your 3 priorities. And you'll see in Tris's graphic to the right, his disc map, and you can see his photo where his dot sits. It's actually just below the line, the borderline between I and S, and almost hanging off the edge of the circle. Tris is a very strongly inclined IS style, and so his 3 priorities are collaboration, support, and encouragement. Now, if you're familiar with the workplace profile, you'd be familiar with collaboration and support as being 2 of the priorities. But in the workplace profile, the I style priority is enthusiasm. But here, because it's a management profile, we've got priorities that are more applicable to a manager's role. Okay, so encouragement obviously makes a lot of sense. Okay, so Tris, tell us about these 3 priorities and how they help you be effective.
Yeah, absolutely, Keith. So after having a read of my management profile here, as you mentioned, I identified my priorities being valuing collaboration, giving support, and providing encouragement. So in terms of the priorities that resonate the most with me, I had a look at valuing collaboration, especially the part where it says, I do my best to make sure everyone is able to communicate and to include others in important activities and decisions. And that one resonated with me because I find whenever I am given the full picture and are included in the decision-making process in terms of planning how to execute a task, I find I'm much more engaged and invested in that outcome. So I really do put a big priority on making sure that my teams feel like they can collaborate well with each other. And then secondly, as well, looking at providing encouragement. So I really want to focus on, being encouraging and having a strong sense of optimism when I am looking to manage a team and managing individuals specifically. And so I really like to put that extra focus on being optimistic, because I find I can really feed off that similar energy when it's mirrored back at me. So they're definitely two aspects that I find really resonate with me, and how I'm able to make my management style be more effective accordingly.
Great. Okay. So that's the first part of this is how well does this fit you, Tris? And obviously, as Tris has said, he really resonates with these priorities and makes sense in terms of affecting the way he goes about managing. All right. Then further down in this section, if you recall from the workplace profile, you have motivators and stressors. In the management profile, they're similar things, but we call them what you enjoy about managing. You probably enjoy many of these things, and then what drains you, which obviously may be also quite stressful, okay, or somewhat stressful. So in the document we put together for this, we asked the person we're debriefing to say, well, which of those were most accurate for you in terms of what you enjoy and what drains you? So Tris, what did you come up with there?
Yeah, absolutely, Keith. So I put, again, a big focus on collaboration for me. So I really do enjoy setting a scene and encouraging collaboration within my team, and really enjoy encouraging optimism. So again, just reflecting the same parts of my key priorities identified above, those 2 points really do resonate with me. When it comes down to what drains me, giving unpleasant feedback is always going to be a little bit of an uncomfortable position for me when it comes to managing people, and also being forceful or insistent with others. I do find that one a little bit draining. It's definitely not my favorite part of managing individuals, to give feedback and really be on their back about something.
Yeah, and that ties in obviously with Tris's style. And if you're familiar with the DISC theory model that we teach in all of our DISC training, the whole thing behind DISC is a needs-driven behavioral model. People use the behavioral style they do because of their psychological needs, right? And the psychological need for the S style is acceptance, and for the I style is recognition. So obviously, with someone with Tris's style, that need for it to be accepted by others and a need to be positively regarded by others in terms of recognition would have a big impact on how he saw these things, like particularly giving unpleasant feedback, etc. Would be difficult to do. Okay. So can you give us an example of a situation where you felt drained and how you dealt with it? What was the outcome?
Yeah, absolutely, Keith. So this particular scenario focused a lot on being forceful or insistent with some team members there. So a big part of my role is managing the administrative process. And of course, with many administrative processes, there is certain steps and process guides that we like to stick to make sure everything goes smoothly. In the past, there has been some instances where I've had to be a little bit more insistent that those process guides are followed with some staff, and that was a little bit draining. But I was able to, I suppose, circumvent that by really focusing on the why when I was communicating with my colleagues there. And I felt that if I could explain a bit more rationale behind the reason why we have these process flows and the importance of following them, it would be a little bit easier for me to remain, I guess, insistent or on them a little bit more in terms of following those process guides. And overall, the outcome was really positive. I was able to have that discussion with one of my colleagues there and really get the why across. And since then, I've been very open to sticking to those process guides and keeping everything on track.
Great, thanks, Tris. A good example. We're going to move on to the management skills now, the one-on-one management skills, and we could go back to the main menu to get there, but Catalyst has very helpfully put the three one-on-one skills down the bottom of the page here we can jump to. We could jump to any one of those. And so you'll see, first of all, we've got directing and delegating, and then motivation, and then developing talent. They're the three management skills that the profile focuses on helping managers to be more effective at. So, and each of these focuses on a one-on-one conversation with a direct report. Okay, that's the application here. So that ties back to what we were saying earlier about the management need to be manager. The role of manager is to have great relationships and get great results from each person, taking into account their personality. So let's dive into directing and delegating to start with. And the first thing we'll see, apart from a little introductory paragraph, is how you direct and delegate. So for each of these three applications, the first thing we look at is what do you naturally do, all right, because of your priorities. Okay, so the way Tris approaches directing and delegating is to put a strong emphasis on collaboration, to be supportive, and to be encouraging. Okay, now that's great if the direct report responds to that, and so that's why it's important to understand the behavioral style of the direct report, so that if, for example, the direct report was opposite Tris in the DC area or CD, their priorities would be challenge, objectivity, and drive. And so there would be a need to adapt. So let's see how that works. Can we just scroll down a little bit further? Okay. Your strengths and challenges. So based on your style, your strengths in directing and delegating, and your challenges in directing and delegating. And Tris has been through those and personalised that and come up with the things that he feels most accurate for him?
Yeah, absolutely, Keith. So the main ones that I was able to identify with for my strength is making people feel that they're important contributors and really driving that encouraging factor there. I also identified with giving direction in an agreeable and non-threatening manner. I believe in the carrot over the stick where possible, so that definitely resonates with me there. And then also making sure that I'm following up regularly and making myself available. So I want to make sure that my team feels supported whenever they do need anything from me. In terms of challenges, again, to echo some similar things we've discussed, pushing people to complete their tasks. That is a big challenge for me. Also instilling a sense of urgency in people. So again, that is a little bit of a challenge for me when it comes to my management style. And then also, again, pushing people for results is something that doesn't immediately come naturally to me. I have to put a little bit more effort to do that when it does arise.
Great, okay. And so going back to the 3 steps in this process, the first one is understanding yourself, the second one is understanding others, and then the third is adapting to them. And so we're now going to look at a situation in the adapt to others situation. We asked Tris to identify a team member that he would like to direct and delegate and review their style and how he may need to adapt to her. So Tris,
Yeah, absolutely. So for this activity, I decided to do a comparison and look at directing and delegating Pam, our training coordinator. So what was really useful for Catalyst to allow me to do that, and I'll just demonstrate that now, is I was able to go back to the compare to a colleague section here inside Catalyst. And because Pam is part of our organization, I can select her from our team. So here she is. Here's Pam's profile here. And what this allowed me to do is have a look at some of the continua that compare both Pam and my styles and also our profiles here. So as you can see, the continua plots both of our pictures on these continua here. And so I focused on the largest gaps. And the largest gaps between Pam and I are the continua for focused on realities and focused on possibilities. So in this particular example, Pammy is a little bit more of a realist, while I tend to be more of an idealist. So big picture thinking there. And then second to that one would be the fast-paced versus steady-paced. So Pam is very energetic, likes to make fast progress on things, whereas I'm a little bit more cautious and more steady-paced. So when I looked at directing and delegating to Pammy, I really focused on these differences here. So noting that because Pam is a little bit more of a realist, I need to make sure that when I'm discussing goals and tasks with her, I can focus on the picture without getting too sky-high thinking to make sure I don't lose her in terms of her buy-in there. And secondly, I also need to make sure that I am identifying where I can, bring in my cautious side while also still giving Pam enough freedom and flexibility to work at her pace, while making sure she doesn't sort of get lost in terms of the excitement and going too quickly for some of the details that I need focused on.
Great, okay. So the last part, and we can go back to the directing and delegating section for a sec. The last part in looking at your directing and delegating profile is on the adapting to others, which we've looked at. If you scroll down. Okay, so if the person that you are looking to use this with is a member of your team and you've got a workplace profile in Catalyst, then obviously you can use the application that Tris just did and go into your colleagues and look up that person. But if the person has not done a profile, you could actually guess their style. So you see guess a colleague's style there in the middle. And if you were to click on that, it will ask you the 2 people reading questions. And so just choose cautious and reflective there, Tris, and accepting and warm. And we'd come up with an S profile, okay? So so then in this section, we've also got a lot of information on how to direct and delegate effectively to each of the different styles. So we'll go into the S style there for a sec. And you can see there how the S style likes to work. And a bit further down, potential challenges when working together with the S style. Obviously, with Tris being SI, there's not going to be a lot of challenges. There are going to be a lot of similarities. And a bit further down, how to adapt to them. if you need to, and a bit further down, if they're, this is the part I wanted to come to, if they're less experienced, then these are some things that you could do to be more effective in directing or delegate to them. If they're more experienced, you've got a different set of tips about how to direct and delegate to that person. Okay, so there's quite a lot of additional information here, and the application of this in a learning situation, if you were running a session for a group of managers on how to use the management profile, would be to make sure that each person identifies one of their direct reports that they would like to direct to do something or would like to delegate something to, work out their style, and then go into this section and come up with a plan about how you are going to do that. Now, in Catalyst, you just scroll down a little bit more, we're in the S section. It also comes up with a list of people in our team who are also in that S style that we've just chosen. Okay. All right, so let's go. I think we're going on to motivation now. Okay. And again, there's an introductory paragraph, what this means, why it's important, and then down to how Tris tends to naturally go about motivation. All right, so he tends to focus on collaboration, likes to be supportive and encouraging. Okay, and so that's focusing in on his priorities. That's going to affect the way he tries to motivate people. Now, obviously, there'll be times when that's not motivational. All right, and so part of the application in this profile is for the manager to think about, when might my natural tendencies be demotivating? All right, and particularly obviously with people of a completely different style, they may not find that motivational at all. All right, so in the application for this, we asked, how might your style and natural approach demotivate others? And Tris, you came up with something there.
Yeah, absolutely, Keith. So I wanted to have a look at a style that was quite opposite to my own. So I focused on the C style here. So looking at some of my natural ways that I'm inclined to motivate others, a big part of it is going to be the focus on collaboration. Now, the reason why I had a look at the C style is a natural tendency for the C style is to prefer to work independently and have that additional control over the work that they're doing there. So I could definitely see how my need or focus on valuing collaboration in a team space could actually demotivate someone with a C style who would prefer to work more independently and have a little bit more control over the outcomes and getting those results right, especially if they're forced to collaborate with others who perhaps they're not used to working with or have different priorities there. So that was a main focus that I was able to see, how my natural motivating style may actually not fit everybody, especially the C style.
Right. Yes. Okay. And so just scroll down through here.
Mm-hmm.
And just have a look at it. We've got so your effect on others, okay, and obviously there's some positives there, of course, for the people who would respond to that kind of motivation, all right, and then continue on down. How you need to adapt to others, and again, if you're using this tool in a facilitated learning experience, you would ask each participant to identify someone that they would like to motivate, that they feel could do with some additional motivation. And again, if a person is in Catalyst, then you just enter their name in that box there and it'll come up with them out of Catalyst, and then it'll take you to the style that is their primary style. Or if you don't have a profile on that person, you could guess their style, again, using the people reading. Okay, and then let's go down. Let's look at the C style for this one.
Mm-hmm.
I just click on the C style there, and again, it comes up with their motivational needs, what demotivates them. Right. So the first thing on the list there is being required to work collaboratively. Okay, so you can easily see how someone with Tris's style might be demotivational to a C style person who wants to work more independently. In looking at motivation, how does conflict play into this, and then how to adapt to help create a more motivating environment for the C style. And how do you recognize and reward them? Because the kind of recognition they look for is completely different, obviously, to someone, say, who's an I style. And then people you know in the C region, we don't have anyone in Intégro, do we? No. None of your people are in the C region. And so I'm not sure if that's correct. We've got some people who are SCs. So that's that sort of makes up for that, I think. Okay, so let's go down to developing talent now. This is the third of the 3 one-on-one management skills. So how do we get the best out of each person? How do we develop their talent? All right. And I mentioned Marcus Buckingham earlier, and the first book that he published was in co-authored with Kurt Kaufman, was called First Break All the Rules. All right. And it was what the greatest managers do. And what they do is they hire for talent, not for experience. Okay. And so if you're hiring for talent, you also want to develop talent. And so this is a really important skill for managers to have. All right. And understanding their disc style can really help them identify what their talent is, especially those that are related to the strengths of their style. All right. So let's scroll down a little bit. And so how do you go about developing talent, Tris? All right. And so again, as with each of these 3 skills, the first thing we look at is what's your natural approach to doing this. All right. So what's your natural approach to developing talent?
Yeah, no, I was going to say again, it really does resonate with me quite a lot for these priorities. So massive focus on collaboration, providing encouragement to my team, and also making sure they're aware that I'm there to support them when and if they need it.
Right. So the advantages is.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, the profile breaks down some advantages and disadvantages for my particular profile. So definitely some advantages that I can resonate with is creating development plans to take into account individual strengths. So ultimately looking at where my team's strengths lie and really focusing on developing them in those areas so that they can feel confident and prepared to really leverage off those strengths. Again, looking to boost confidence in my team. So that is going to be a really important priority for me to make sure that my team feel they have confidence in their own abilities to really do a good job at work, and also making sure that I provide the tools needed to give them that success. So ultimately, that's where the support aspect comes in.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry, don't interrupt.
Disadvantages.
Yeah, absolutely. Disadvantages. So ultimately, there is the risk that I can be a little bit too tolerant when I find that people fail to meet expectations. So again, if I'm looking to develop the talent and it's really just not quite reaching where they need to be, again, I have a bit of an inclination to let some of that slide. Again, I sort of want to look at being, disadvantage would be being so accepting that I don't let myself see the obstacles that are holding people back. So again, too much focus on optimism and really making that sort of error in saying, okay, maybe there needs to be a little bit more detail into why the success just isn't there in terms of developing that talent. And then again, having a little bit of a tough time giving, or I should say, giving frank feedback when needed. So again, having a bit of a tough time having those difficult conversations when a correction really does need to be implemented as part of the development plan.
Great. Okay. So we'll go down to the adapt to others section again, as we do with each of these. And again, in a workshop based around the management profile, you're going to be getting managers to look at each of these 3 skills and what they can do to be better at using them. And as you can see already, there's a lot of information in here. And although the management profile in the kit, the facilitation that comes with the facilitator kit, you can run a 1-day program on the whole profile. But as I don't know what you're feeling at the moment, but my thinking is there's too much here to do in one session. And so what I find best is to give people one skill at a time and go away and apply it and make sure they've learned how to use that and get better at it, and then come back and learn another skill. But so Tris is going to, again, we're going to use your colleague section again, and we're going to go back to Pammy.
Absolutely, yeah. So going back to compare with Pam again. So I'll select Pam from our Compare a Colleague section. And again, because Pam is an I style, I'm going to focus on essentially making sure that I provide lots of encouragement when I am looking to develop that talent there, and also give plenty of opportunity for Pam to collaborate with others, just because it is the I style is very much a social and outgoing tendency for that continuum there. I also know Pam's going to be very action orientated because she is in that sort of fast paced mindset there in terms of the pace at which she likes to take action with things in her work. So it's going to be very important to me that when I am focusing on plans to really develop Pam's talents there, to really, again, leverage off those strengths that I can see in Pam, on a day-to-day basis, and sort of focus that plan around there. So again, making sure lots of encouragement is given, lots of opportunity to collaborate with others, and really have that action-orientated plan there. So that would definitely be my focus on developing talent for Pam.
Great. Okay. That's the 3 one-on-one management skills with a downward focus on your direct reports. There's one additional skill that the profile covers, and that is managing up. Okay. Looking at your relationship with your manager. So we're going to go into that now. And I'll just add here that there are some nice videos in the facilitator kit that show a manager applying these skills and initially applying them the wrong way and then figuring out how to apply it the right way after they've been through the training on the management profile. And but again, here in this particular skill of managing up, the first thing that we're going to look at is how does Tris's profile affect our relationship? So how does your manager likely see you because of your DISC style? Okay, and of course, Tris's manager is going to see him as very collaborative and supportive and encouraging. Okay, again, the focus being around the 3 priorities that most motivate Tris. Okay. So just going down a little further, adapting to others. And this particular section, obviously, you would be looking to identify the style of your manager. And again, if your manager is in the Catalyst has a profile, as Tris's manager does, which is Kelly, he can just type in Kelly and up will come Kelly's name. And so we click on that. And it comes up with Kelly from the work in your work colleagues section, okay? And Kelly has the SC style. So primary S, secondary C. So we go into the S style managing up. And there are Kelly's priorities. Now they're slightly different from Tris's in that being an SC, Kelly has a priority on reliability. Now notice reliability here, not stability, as we have in the workplace profile on the SC scale. So how to adapt, how to get Kelly's buy-in, and some tips on how to go about that. Right, and then there's these little videos in Catalyst to show how to manage that communication with your manager. Okay, and did you want to go to your colleague section here as well?
Yeah, absolutely, Keith. So yeah, to really help out with this part of the debrief, I again went back to compare a colleague, but this time instead of looking at Pammy's profile, I went in and did a comparison with Kelly. And so looking at Kel and I's comparison in terms of our continua, I again came down and had a look at some of the largest gaps in terms of our differences there. The big ones of note is going to be the private versus outgoing side of Kel and I's comparison, as well as the skeptical and accepting side of our comparison there. So ultimately, if I'm going to be managing up to Kel, it's very important for me to essentially tone down my optimism in certain circumstances, just to make sure that I can keep Kel involved in the discussion, just to make sure that we're not getting too far apart with one another in terms of the discussions and the big picture ideas that we are actually having there. But as you can see, just on these sort of continuers there, it's a really useful tool for these comparison reports to be able to see, okay, maybe where I need to put my largest focus on adapting my communication there when managing up with Kel.
Yeah, and while we're on that particular continua there, but just add that when the program is identifying where you fall on those continua, it's not just putting you somewhere because of your style, all right? It's putting you there because of how you answered specific questions that measure that scale, that's that continua, all right? So Kelly's a little bit stronger on the skeptical end of the scale here because she has an additional priority on challenge. So she's an SC profile with the extra striped shading on the challenge priority, okay, the DC scale. And so that's where the additional skepticism comes in there, all right? So someone else with an SC style would probably score more towards the middle or even towards the accepting end of the scale, okay? So just bearing that in mind if you're not familiar with the continua here, and that's why your dot is where it is, okay? All right, was there anything else we needed to cover there, Tris?
Look, Keith, that's pretty much the main part of the debrief there. I suppose if we were to go back just very quickly to our management side.
Oh, yeah.
To managing up, I can speak just a little bit quickly on the conflict side.
Yeah.
Again, onto there. So again, so dealing with conflict there. So it's very important that, in any instances where I do need to deal with conflict with Kel as the SC style, that I really need to make my opinions and concerns clearly voiced in a diplomatic but direct manner. So really avoid having anything sort of simmer in there or bubble up inside. It's going to be far more effective for me just to address them directly head on with Kel there, just to make sure that I'm comfortable, that she hears me and she understands any sort of issues or conflict that I need to raise there. And so again, it's just a really big focus here on addressing the situation directly rather than tiptoeing around the issues. So that's going to be a very important part for me when dealing with conflict in terms of that managing up relationship between Kel and I.
And thanks very much for participating in this this exercise. It's been fun working with you and getting to know you a little bit better, and helpful, I think, to see how we can do things a little differently because of the Catalyst platform. All right, and so more and more of our clients are really switching to Catalyst and finding that their employees are really enjoying it, and it's actually encouraging them to use their DISC profiles a lot more. Thank you very much for joining us today. If you would like more information about the profile, if you have any other questions you'd like to ask or discuss anything with any of our team, just please contact us through support@intégro.com.au, and we look forward to talking with you again soon. Thank you.